Hey, grade nines. Well, let's take a look at our lesson for today. So we're taking a look at linear relations, and we're taking a look at another form of linear relations. Okay, now if you remember linear relations from the last time we worked on it was when we graph it, it's graph a relation, it's going to be a straight line. That's what the word linear means, just having to deal with a straight line. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. We're going to take a look at these examples here, A, B, C, and we got to do a couple things. We got to graph the equation, and we got to describe the graph. So now this looks different from what we did last time, but the process is going to be the same. We're going to do a little bit of algebra skills here to solve this. Okay, and let's take a look at it. Let's start with this one right away. I'll go to my next page here. So I've got a grid already set up, okay? And now let's take a look at what this is. This equation says that it's x is equal to -4. What does that mean? It means that no matter what, x is always -4, okay? And so the linear relation is, well, x is always -4. If I were to graph it, it might seem a little confusing right now. So let's try to go and make a table of values. And you might understand it a little bit better if I do this. So I've got my x, my y, and because x, no matter what, will always be -4. So I'm going to put some values in here for y. Let's say I start at 2. No, let's say I'll start at 3. Okay, and then 2 and 1 and 0, and then we'll go -1 and -2. So these are just the values that I'll use. Now, it doesn't matter what y is. According to this, x is always -4. So if y is 3, well, x is -4. If y is 2, x is -4. If y is 1, x is -4. And I think you'll understand that no matter what, it's always -4. Doesn't matter the value for y. X will always be -4. So now, if I was to try to do some ordered pairs here, okay, let's start with my first ordered pair. Okay, I'll have -4 and 3. Then I'll have -4 and 2, and then -4 and 1. And I'm going to stop there, and you'll understand what's happening. So if I find, okay, here's 4 and -3, or 4 and +3. Here's -4 on the x-axis, and +3 on the y-axis. Next one, -4 and 2. Oh, and -4 and 1. Okay, and so on and so on. So now what we understand here is that x is always equal to -4. Doesn't matter. So now I'll go ahead and I'll connect the dots here. Okay, and I'll get a straight line here. And now remember, when we do a relation, we can always just extend the line. Because what does that mean? That means that the line goes in both directions forever. There is my relation. What is this graph of? This is a graph of x is equal to -4. So we'll label the relation on the graph. Now the next part says describe the graph. Well, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so we could say that the graph is a vertical line that intersects at -4. Graph is a vertical line that intersects at -4. So that's my description. So I've graphed it and I've described it. Okay. Now let's take a look at the next one. So this one is y plus 2 is equal to 0. So in order to do this, before I can graph this, I've got to solve for y. Okay, so now remember we got to remember our algebra skills here. So y, we got to get y by itself. We need to isolate the y. How do we do that? Well, we got to get rid of this 2. If I take a look at what's happening, okay, let me just write the equation again. Okay, the 2 is being added to the y, and I got to do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 2, well, I'm going to subtract 2. And now the rule is that what I do to one side, I do to the other. So here my 2's cancel out, so I'm just left with y. And now I've got 0 take away 2, or 0 minus 2, and all I'm going to end up with is negative 2. So pretty straightforward, okay? Not that difficult. Okay, so now what does this mean? Okay, we're told that y is equal to negative 2. All that simply means is that no matter what x is, y will always be negative 2. If I was to do a table of values, okay, which I don't really need to, but I will, okay, I'm going to do negative 2. Okay, if I said x is 2, well, y is going to be negative 2. If x is 1, well, y is going to be negative 2. If x is 0, well, y is going to be negative 2. If x is negative 1, well, y is going to be negative 2. If x is negative 2, y is going to be negative 2. I think you get the idea. Okay, so there's my table of values, and I can get ordered pairs from my table of values. Okay, so now let's try and graph this. Okay, so here's my grid. My grid here doesn't have any scales, so I'm going to put some scales on it, and I'm going to just use the same as what I did last time. I'm going to use going up every 2 boxes is going to represent 1. Okay, and I'll do the same thing. Well, let's make that look like a 2. And I'll do the same thing going down. Every 2 boxes is going to represent a value of 1. Now I'll do the same thing on the x-axis. Okay, so now let's graph this relation. Okay, I'll pick a different color here. Okay, and so the relation is that y is equal to negative 2. So if I use ordered pairs, if I wanted to use ordered pairs, let's say this ordered pair is going to be 2 and negative 2, and then this one is going to be 1 and negative 2, and this is going to be 0 and negative 2. Okay, I'm going to stop there because hopefully you'll understand. Let's start with the first one. So 2 and then negative 2. So on the x-axis, here's 2, and I'll go up to, or down to negative 2, and negative 2 right there. Okay, and then it's, oh sorry, that's supposed to be on the positive side. Oops. No, that's right. Okay. Oh, I'm mixing it up. Oops. I'm getting myself confused here. Okay, so 2, my first one is going to be 2, and then negative 2, okay, and then 1, and negative 2, and 0, and negative 2, and then it'll be so on. Doesn't matter the next number, whatever, doesn't matter what x will be, y will always be negative 2. So I've plotted a couple points, and all I'll just simply do is now connect my dots. And so this is my relation. And there is my graph. And what is this a graph of? This is a graph of y, or y plus 2 is equal to 0. Okay? And don't forget your arrowheads on your graph. Okay? So pretty straightforward. So we graphed the equation. Now we can describe the graph. And we can describe the graph as that this is a horizontal line. Okay, you can say the graph is a horizontal line that intersects at y equals negative 2, or intersects the y-axis at negative 2. I'll just simply say something like that. Okay, and so there, that part is done. Okay, good. Now, hopefully you're understanding it a little better. Now let's take a look at this one. Okay, So we have 2x equals 5. So rewrite it over here. 2x equals 5. And in this case here, we're going to solve for x. Okay. So we're going to remember our algebra skills. So what this is saying is we've got 2 times x is equal to 5. We want to isolate the 2, so that means we have to get rid of the x. How do we get rid of it? We're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide, we've got to get rid of the 2. We want the x by itself. We're going to isolate the x. I said isolate the 2, I meant isolate the x. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. So here, the 2's cancel out. What happens? What are we left with? It's just x. And then we have 5 divided by 2 on the other side. 5 divided by 2 is just simply 2.5. Okay, so now what does this mean? This is a linear relation where x is equal to 2.5. Now, if we were to graph it, okay, if I had to make a table of values, what does this mean? It means that no matter the y value, x will always be 2.5. Okay, x is always 2.5 because that's what we've done here. So now, if I was to go ahead and do my grid here, I'm going to put my scale on here. I'm going to say that every one is going to represent, or every 2 boxes represents 1. So that's 1, there's 2, that's 3. Okay, so now 2.5, we're going to put that, 2.5 is going to be right here. That's going to be on the x-axis, 2.5. So like we said, it doesn't matter what the y values are. X will always be 2.5. So all I'm going to do simply right now is I'm just going to draw a line, okay, on 2.5. Because it doesn't matter what the y values are. X will always be 2.5. And I'll put my arrowheads on there, shows my graph, and we know that this is a graph of 2x is equal to 5. Okay, so we've graphed the equation, now we're going to describe it. Or we could simply describe it as it's a vertical line. So the graph is a vertical line that intersects at 2.5. So the graph is a vertical line that intersects, I'll just write it completely, the x-axis at 2.5. So there we go. So that part's done. Now, let's take a look at another situation. So, it says this one, example 2, graphing equation in this form here. Okay? Now, understand all we're doing is we're still working with algebra skills here. Okay? But let's take a look at what it says here. It says for the equation, this equation here, make a table of values where x equals -4 and 0 and 4, and then graph the equation. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, well we know that we have to make a table of values. So I'm going to go ahead and start the table of values. So I've got x and y. And they give us specific values to use in this question. We're told that we have to use -4 for x, we have to use 0, and we have to use 4. And then we finish, then we'll figure out what the y values are. So what do we have to do? So if I take a look at this equation, I'm going to write out the equation here. So 3x minus 2y equals 6. So we're told that the x value is -4. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to substitute -4 for x. So now we got to remember our algebra. Okay? So 3 times -4, I'm going to end up with -12. I'm left with then minus 2y equals 6. Okay? So now, let's remember algebra. I want to isolate the y. I want to isolate this part, but I have to get rid of this. So how do I get rid of this negative 12? Okay, in order to get rid of it, I have to do the opposite. So the opposite of negative 12 is to add 12. So I'll go negative 12 plus 12. And then I still have minus 2y equals 6. And the rule is what I do to one side, do to the other. If I added positive plus 12, on one side I got to add 12 on the other side. So here, the negative and the positive 12, or plus 12, just cancels out. And so all I'm left with is negative 2y. And on the other side, 6 plus 12, I'm left with 18. And I continue to solve this. So now I want to isolate the y. In order to get rid, I have to get rid of the negative 2. To get rid of the negative 2, I just will divide by negative 2. And I'll do that to both sides. So these 2's now cancel out here, and I'm left with y. And then I have over here 18 divided by negative 2. Well, that's going to give me negative 9. So there we go. So when x is negative 4, y is equal to negative 9. I'll put that in my table of values. Okay. All right. So now let's do the next one. Okay. So let me just erase some of this stuff here. Okay. Oops. Gonna cut that equation. Well, so I'll write the equation out again. 3x minus 2y equals 6. And so now I have to substitute again. This time I'm using 0. So I'm going to substitute 0 in for x. Write out the rest of the equation. And let's work it out. 3 times 0 is 0. Okay? So then I don't even need to worry about it because it's 0. So it's just gone. I'll write it out. So we have minus 2y equals 6. Because it's just 0, it's just gone. I don't need to do any more work with it. Okay? So now all I have is just simply negative 2y is equal to 6. And I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. 2's cancel out, leaves me with y. And over here, I'm going to get negative 3. So when x is 4, or sorry, when x is 0, y is negative 3. Okay, hopefully you're getting it now. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the next part. Okay, so this time I have positive 4 for x. So we'll go ahead and do the substitution. 3 times 4, okay, then I'll have minus 2y is equal to 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 2y equals 6. So now I have to get rid of this 12. So the 12 is positive, so the opposite of a positive 12 is a negative 12 worth. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to go 12 minus 12. And then I'm going to do that to both sides. I'll write out the rest of the equation. So I got 12 minus 12, and then minus 2y, and then on the other side I'm going to go 6 minus 12. So here, these will cancel out, leaves me with negative 2y on this side. And on the other side, 6 minus 12, well, that's going to leave me with negative 6. And we should remember what to do here. Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Okay, the 2's cancel out, get y. Now I have a negative 6 divided by a negative 2. The answer is going to be a positive, and it's going to be positive 3. So there we go. So now, when x is 4, y is 3. Okay, so I made my table of values. Now I've got to graph my equation. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. So here's my grid. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my table of values and figure out how I'm going to do my grid. Okay, so on this grid here, okay, since both of my numbers are in the negative side over here as well, then I'm going to adjust my grid to show more of the negative side. Okay, and so my for my scale for my x-axis, I'm just going to go every 2 boxes to represent 1. Let's move this out of the way, and that'll be 4. And do the same thing on the other side, and this will be -1, -2, -3, and then -4. Now for my scale for my y-axis, I think I'm just going to take each box and just represent that to be 1. Do I have enough space? I think so. Okay, so there we go. And then I'll do the same thing here. Okay, so if I take a look at my table of values, my first ordered pair is -4 and 9, -9, and then 0 and 3, and then my final ordered pair is going to be 4 and 3. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going to find -4 on the x-axis right there, and then -9, oops, right there, and then 0 and 3, so 0 and 3. Oh, I think I made a mistake, should be a -3. Yeah, sorry, this is supposed to be a -3. Yeah, so 0 and -3, so 0, -3, and 4. 4 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis, and there we go. So now, all I have to do is connect my dots and use a straight edge. Okay, use a straight edge and I'll connect my dots. And there is my relation. Okay, and then put my arrowheads. And remember, what is this a relation of? So this graph represents a relation of 3x minus 2y equals 6. So there we go. Hopefully that makes sense. So what do we do here? Well, we made a table of values and we graphed the equation. Good. All right. I'll post your work in Google Classroom. Hopefully you guys can understand this. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me.